Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here on Project Cars 2, tackling the snowy Nurburgring once more. My vehicle of choice, the Chevrolet Camaro Z28 Trans Am car. This is some 400 horsepower of rear-wheel drive American muscle. However, importantly, that 400 horsepower is all nicely naturally aspirated, which means we won't have to be worrying about ludicrous turbo lag, which is nice. It is 410 horsepower, I should say. It's also slightly heavier, 2,800 pounds, which might actually be good in terms of tameness for the vehicle. I've got one lap here at the full Nordschleife in an attempt to go faster than a 922. That is the gauntlet laid down by the little Audi S1. Of course, on the dry track, the Camaro would be considerably faster, but on the snow, the Audi has the traction. It has the launch out of the corners and is generally a lot more composed than a lot of the cars that have gone so far. It doesn't have that noise, though. It is a beautiful soundtrack from our Camaro here. However, unfortunately, that doesn't make it any quicker necessarily around the circuit. Let's see what we can do with this car. Now, the plus points for the Camaro, aside from, of course, not having the random power spikes from the turbos, which is nice. Again, another car with relatively long gear ratios, and with all of the power and all of the torque being a lot more readily available throughout the rev range, I'll be able to get away with short shifting. I'll be able to get away with higher gears out of some of these corners, which will be very nice indeed. Minimise wheel spin. Actually, I've got to say, there is a lot of traction in this car. This is actually, whoa, just bangs from the exhaust. There is a lot of traction in this. I'm mighty impressed with the Camaro. The way this is getting out of the corners is not bad whatsoever. And there are some downsides, naturally. It's not exactly the most sophisticated of race cars. At the end of the day, it is still a race car. However, it isn't amazingly sophisticated. Also, minimal in terms of aerodynamics, really, on here. We're not going to have much downforce. We're not going to have... the faster we go in this, we're not going to get that much more grip. There might be a little bit. There is kind of a sort of lip spoiler at the back. There's a splitter of sorts at the front, but it's going to be, fairly rudimental. That's even compared to some of the other classic race cars that have gone. So we haven't got that working in our favour. I'll tell you what, though, the power delivery here is not bad. Power delivery is really not bad. As I say power delivery, the traction actually coming out of these corners. Oh, hello. The front end actually does get turned in quite nicely. The front end's got a lot of grip. The problem is it's got a lot more grip than the rear end. So we can get the front turned into a corner, and then the back wants to come around and say hello and wants to sort of... Again, it wants to waggle its tail around a fair bit. We're not going as massively fast in some of these places with the Camaro, which makes it a tad bit more manageable. However, I would rather not have my car wiggling around. I'd rather not have my car sliding around if I could help it. I don't really see the need of going down to first gear. I think we're going to have the drive out of here in second, and we'll probably get... actually, we'll still manage to maintain a pretty decent amount of speed. God, look at that. I can get to full throttle in second, and there is just no... Say there's no wheel spin. I don't know if I say that, I'll get in trouble with this car somewhere, but it is remarkably composed. I think outside of, well, the all-wheel drive cars, the Audi and the turbine Lotus, this has been by far and away one of the best in terms of traction. Of course, it does help that it only has, and I say only has, 410 horsepower. It is the least powerful car to have gone around here, and it is a much smoother power delivery than the likes of the Sierra. But still, I was expecting a lot more wheel spin. I was expecting a lot more, well, that, funnily enough. The oversteer is coming from me turning in too sharply almost. I've really got to make sure I get this car slowed down for these corners. The brakes aren't great. The brakes aren't great. I don't really trust them. And the amount of brake pressure I can put down without fear of locking up and wiggling the arse around is minimal. It is minimal, and it doesn't really slow down that quickly. Yeah, I think there's just an element of me not quite fully trusting these brakes. However, time is going to be made up elsewhere in this car, I think, and that's we're coming up over the crest here, and I'm almost at full throttle again. I can get to full throttle in second gear over that crest. The amount of cars that should simply, you can't even contemplate doing that with them. So I'm going to have to hope that we can. It's essentially going to be averaging almost better speeds overall, because we're not going to get the same top speed. You know, we're not getting. I don't even think we're going to get the same top speed. Don't know if we're going to get the same top speed as the Audis. This does seem to struggle slightly. While the game reckons it'll do 190 miles an hour, I'm sure it will in normal conditions. Cars lose some of their top speed when they're on the ice tyres. I would guess the added friction and so on of the spiked tyres or thickly treaded tyres, whatever, messes around with top speed on some of these cars, and this does seem to be quite heavily affected. It does. However, I can be a lot braver on corner exits, so yeah, we're going to go for, hopefully, keep everything, an overall quicker speed. We're not going to beat the Can Am's 200 plus miles an hour down the straight, but we do have at least a relative amount of controllability here. Just got to be mindful. A couple of places and a couple of things, especially with these brakes in towards the tight corners. Now, don't turn in too sharply, because that's where we lose the back end, or we can turn in not sharply and the back end will go on its own regardless. That's fine, you know. I didn't need any of that rear end grip at all. I didn't need any of that rear end grip at all through there. Carousel, we should be able to run through there without too many problems, and then out the other side, stamp on the throttle, little bit of wiggling. I really thought we were going to see a lot of sideways action from the Trans Am car. We've seen there's been little moments, but they've all been relatively controlled, and in many ways, some of the best things with this car is that if it gets a little bit sideways, you've got enough time to gather it all back up. You've got enough grip, you've got enough steering and so on. Okay, it's not got the steering lock on the Rad Bull, of course it hasn't. But because of the speeds that we're going at and the grip the car has, I'm thoroughly impressed. I don't know whether that's going to show in the lap time, because I think we are going to struggle when we come to that main straight. I think, whereas this may well be ahead at this point compared to a lot of other cars, I have a horrible feeling we're going to lose a stack of time down the main straight. It's just how much time can we make up in these acceleration zones versus how much do we lose by not being able to do 200 miles an hour down that back straight. Now this section, well, we've kind of started going through this very, very twisty section. This is not easy in anything. Now we're starting to see a little bit more sliding around, a little bit more movement from the Trans Am Camaro. Again, it could be a lot worse. This has got a lot of crests. There's a lot of bumps, and while I'm trying my very best to stay off of the curves, it gets away with everything. Again, a lot better than I was expecting. Oh, slowly does it down here. That's a terrifying section when I'm not trusting the brakes, because you have a sudden very, very big dip downhill that you've got to try and get the braking right for. How fast dare I be through here? Can't do too bigger steering movements, because otherwise that's where we start exciting the rear of the car. Really don't want to be hitting the curbs. Now we can get to some sort of full throttle, but it's only going to be briefly until we jump on the brakes once more. Oh, trying to find the bravery with this. I'm perhaps being a little bit cautious in places here, but I think I'd rather be cautious than be shucking the car in, because it's very easy to turn in too sharply and lose the back end. So I think I would rather be cautious than start throwing the car around and slightly see there even. No, Camaro, thank you. Now, if only we could do 190 miles an hour down this straight. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to. We've got a minute to get to the finish line if we want to beat that Audi. Come on, Camaro. Keep finding... Use the power. Use the power. Up to 145 miles an hour. Still not slow. You know, we are on the snow at 150 miles an hour. Can we take this? Will we have the grip to take the kink at the end of the straight at 150? I'm not sure. Also, I'm not sure the car has got much more to give down here. I think we will be good. We will keep the throttle pinned at 154 miles an hour. We've got to get it ready, though, to slow down for these next couple of corners, because this is a very, very tight final chicane, and this car is not amazingly, well, filling you with confidence on the brakes. Oh, it's going to be really close if we don't slither too much out of this final corner. Come on, Camaro. Use that power. I think it might do it. I think the Trans Am car might do it. It has! It's going to be a spin and a clonk and a nay! It was a spin and a clonk and a roll. We're in a black and orange car. We have fulfilled all of the needed criteria. Actually, a clean lap as well. I believe the first clean lap where we didn't have a single off or a single tap on the wall. Oh, it did it. That is cool. That is cool, I think, definitely, for some celebratory donuts right there. A 921.0. I'm massively impressed with this car. I am incredibly impressed with this car. This is not a massively sophisticated piece of machinery. It's a lot of power. Well, it says a lot of power. Certainly a lot of power for the era through the rear wheels. And yet the traction in this is remarkable. Straight line speed, okay, struggles a little bit. Of course it will compared to Can-Am and LMP and all of that sort of cars that have got a Group C cars and so on. However, the Camaro is going to go into a third place. It beats the Audi S1 by a second and a half. Okay, yeah, it's 6 seconds down on the Zonda. But we're talking about the Zonda Revolution. 6 seconds is the difference between that and a Trans Am Camaro. I mean, it's 5 seconds. Yeah, again, it's 5 seconds down on the Lotus Type 56. Type 56 was all-wheel drive and massively fast down the straight. I mean, if this had the speed of the Zonda and whatnot down the straight, of course, it would have gone faster than them, but it probably wouldn't have been as controllable and so on through the corners. But that's a very, very good lap time. That's a very good lap time from the Camaro. I'm very surprised. I was not expecting to see that from this car. However, it did. I'm still a little bit in shock. Well, there we go. Turns out a Trans Am car in the snow, pretty damn good indeed. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.